"Now you are mine," said the Apache woman after the cowboy saved her from the wild wolves. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of pine and earth across the rolling hills. Maya, an Apache woman in her late 20s, moved carefully along the narrow trail, her leather boots crunching softly over fallen leaves. She had traveled this path many times before, but today felt different. The forest seemed unusually quiet, as if the birds themselves had paused, holding their breath for something unseen. She tightened the strap of her satchel across her shoulder, checking the small bundle of supplies she carried for the journey. Food, water, a blanket, and a few tools. Enough for a few days, but she hoped she would not need them all. Maya was independent, proud, and skilled in navigating the wilderness. Growing up near these lands had taught her how to read the signs of nature, to understand the whispers of the wind, and to sense danger before it arrived. But even with all her experience, a strange unease crept into her chest as she continued. The hairs on the back of her neck stood on end, and she instinctively slowed her pace, scanning the trees around her. It was then she heard it, a low growl, distant at first but growing louder with each passing second. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. The sound was unmistakable. A wolf, or more than one. Her mind raced as she glanced around, trying to spot the source. There, through the misty morning light, she saw movement, shadows slipping between the trees, low and silent, circling her. Her heart pounded. Wolves rarely approached humans unless provoked or desperate, but this pack seemed hungry and fearless. Maya knew she had to remain calm. Panic would only make her more vulnerable. Slowly, she stepped back, trying to put distance between herself and the unseen predators. Her eyes darted from one tree to another, following the subtle shifts in the shadows. The growls grew louder, more menacing, and she realized the wolves were closing in. She could see their eyes now, glowing faintly in the morning haze, and the sound of their breathing sent a shiver down her spine. She reached for the small knife strapped to her belt, gripping it tightly. Though she was trained in survival, she knew that facing a pack of wolves alone was a challenge even the most skilled could struggle to overcome. Her mind raced through her options. Running might provoke them to chase, and fighting them could be fatal. She needed a plan, but time was slipping away. Just as fear began to take hold, a new sound reached her ears, the unmistakable clip-clop of hooves on the dirt trail.
Maya's eyes widened as she turned toward the sound.
Through the trees, a figure appeared on horseback, moving steadily toward her. The horse was strong and alert, its rider upright and confident. Maya couldn't make out all the details at first, but there was something about the man that made her hope for safety. The cowboy rode closer, his long coat flowing behind him and his hat casting a shadow over his face. He had the look of someone who belonged to the land, someone who had spent countless hours in the wilderness and understood its dangers. As he approached, the wolves hesitated, sensing the presence of another strong figure. The man slowed his horse and dismounted with surprising agility, landing on the ground with a firm, controlled step. Maya barely had time to react before he moved toward the wolves, speaking in a calm, low voice that seemed to carry authority. "Go on, get out of here," he called, waving his arm in a commanding gesture. One wolf barked and lunged toward him, but he held his ground, swinging a long stick to keep it at bay. The rest of the pack snarled, circling closer, but something in his posture and confidence made them pause. Maya's heart raced, both from fear and from awe. She had heard stories of brave men, but seeing it in person was different. The cowboy faced danger head-on, without hesitation. His movements were precise and measured, each step calculated to maintain control over the situation. He didn't panic, didn't falter, and didn't look away. Maya found herself holding her breath, silently cheering him on, wishing she could do something to help. The wolf lunged again, teeth bared, but the cowboy dodged with agility and struck the creature with a sharp, decisive blow. It yelped and retreated, and the rest of the pack, perhaps sensing the courage and skill before them, began to back away slowly. Maya's relief was immediate and overwhelming. She realized that without him, she might have been trapped, surrounded by predators. Her hands shook as she lowered her knife, and she took a step forward, drawn toward the man who had just saved her life. The cowboy finally turned his attention to her, his face now fully visible. His eyes were steady, calm, and full of determination. He offered her a small nod, as if acknowledging the danger had passed but that vigilance was still required. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice firm but kind. Maya nodded, unable to find words immediately. Her chest heaved from the adrenaline, and she felt a strange mix of gratitude, fear, and admiration. "I think so," she managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. He stepped closer, keeping an eye on the tree line, ensuring no wolves lingered nearby.
"You were lucky," he said.
"It's not safe to travel alone in these woods, especially with wolves around. They can be clever and relentless." Maya's mind raced. She wanted to thank him properly, to express the depth of her gratitude, but words seemed inadequate. Instead, she simply nodded again, her eyes meeting his, silently acknowledging the danger she had faced and the courage she had shown. The cowboy glanced around, checking the trail for any remaining threats. Satisfied, he gestured for Maya to follow him. "Come with me," he said. "It's safer if we stick together until you reach your destination." Maya hesitated for a moment, pride and independence warring with the need for safety. But something in his presence made her trust him instinctively. Slowly, she began to walk beside him, keeping close but careful not to crowd him. The horse followed quietly, sensing the tension and remaining alert. As they moved along the trail, Maya studied the man in silence. His movements were confident and natural, a sign of someone who had spent years in the wilderness. Yet there was also a gentleness to him, a patience and understanding that reassured her. She realized that in his presence, the fear that had gripped her moments ago was beginning to fade. The forest around them remained quiet, the usual sounds of wildlife muted, as if in respect for the encounter that had just occurred. The sunlight filtered through the trees, casting patterns on the ground that shifted with the gentle breeze. Maya found herself taking in the beauty of the wilderness, even as her mind remained alert for any further danger. The cowboy spoke again, breaking the silence. "What brings you out here alone?" he asked, his tone curious but not intrusive. Maya hesitated, then replied, "I was traveling to my village. I thought I could handle the journey myself, but I misjudged the situation." He nodded, as if understanding completely. "It happens to the best of us. The wild doesn't forgive mistakes easily. You were smart to keep your head and stay calm." Maya felt a flush of warmth at his words, a mixture of pride and relief. She realized that her respect for him was growing not just because he had saved her life, but because he recognized her efforts and acknowledged her courage. They continued along the trail, moving carefully but steadily. The tension of the wolf encounter lingered, but with each step, Maya felt a growing sense of security. She knew that with this man by her side, she had a chance to reach her village safely. As the morning wore on, the sun climbed higher in the sky, casting a golden light across the forest. The shadows of the trees shifted, and the sounds of the wilderness slowly returned. Birds began to sing, and the rustle of small animals moving through the underbrush reminded Maya that life continued, even after moments of fear. Yet, despite the return of normalcy, a part of her remained aware of the fragility of life. The encounter with the wolves had been a stark reminder of how quickly danger could appear, and how important it was to recognize and respect the power of nature. Maya glanced at the cowboy again, noting the way he moved with quiet confidence, always alert but never frantic. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, knowing that his presence had made the difference between life and death. She also felt a spark of curiosity, a desire to know more about this man who had appeared seemingly out of nowhere to protect her. As they walked, Maya realized that the journey ahead would still be challenging. The wilderness was unpredictable, and she would need to remain vigilant. But with the cowboy by her side, she felt a renewed sense of hope and determination. The first part of her journey had been dangerous, but it had also been transformative. Maya had faced fear, relied on her instincts, and encountered someone whose courage and skill had saved her life. She knew that this experience would stay with her forever, shaping not only her memories but also her understanding of trust, bravery, and connection. And as they continued down the trail, Maya felt a quiet sense of anticipation. She did not yet know what lay ahead, but she sensed that her life had shifted in a meaningful way. The wilderness had tested her, and she had survived, not alone, but with the unexpected aid of a man who had shown her that courage, kindness, and skill could create moments of extraordinary grace in the face of danger. The forest slowly began to open as Maya and the cowboy Luke moved along the winding trail. Morning had passed, and the sun was higher now, spilling golden light across the trees. The danger of the wolves had faded, but the memory of their growls lingered in Maya's mind. Every rustle of leaves or snap of a twig made her glance around, alert and cautious. Luke seemed unbothered, moving with a calm confidence that made her feel safer. Yet even in his presence, she couldn't shake the lingering tension that came from knowing how close she had been to harm. They walked side by side, the horse following behind. Luke glanced at her occasionally as if measuring her mood, but he didn't speak immediately. The silence between them was not uncomfortable. It was a quiet understanding, a shared acknowledgement of the danger they had just faced. Finally, after a few minutes, Luke broke the silence. "You handled yourself well back there," he said, his voice steady, not boastful, not questioning. Most people would have panicked. Maya looked at him surprised. I tried," she replied. "I thought I could manage on my own. I've traveled these lands before, but today felt different." Luke nodded thoughtfully. The forest has a way of reminding us that it doesn't care about experience or skill. It's alive and unpredictable. You respected it, and that's why you survived. Maya felt a mixture of relief and admiration. There was something in the way he spoke that made her feel seen, not just as a person in danger, but as someone who had the courage and ability to face it. She nodded slowly, feeling a growing trust in him. They continued walking, moving deeper into the woods. The path was uneven, with roots and rocks hidden under fallen leaves, and Maya had to watch her step carefully. Luke moved with ease, stepping over obstacles as if he were born to navigate this terrain. She noticed the way he scanned the surroundings, eyes sharp and alert, always ready for danger. There was a sense of strength in him, but also a calmness that was almost comforting. After a while, Luke slowed and gestured toward a small clearing. "We should rest for a bit," he said. "The sun is strong now, and it's better to regain some energy before continuing." Maya nodded, grateful for the pause. She sat on a fallen log while Luke led the horse to a nearby stream. The water was clear and cold, rushing over smooth stones. Luke cupped his hands and drank, then offered some to her. Maya bent down, drinking carefully, the cool water soothing her parched throat. "Thank you," she said softly, handing the horse a few sips from her hands as well. "For everything back there." Luke shook his head slightly. "You don't need to thank me. I did what anyone would do. But I'm glad you're safe." Maya studied him as he spoke. There was an honesty in his words, a simplicity that made her feel like she could trust him completely. It was strange, she thought, how quickly someone could enter your life and make a lasting impact, even in a short moment. They rested in silence for a few minutes, the sounds of the forest filling the space between them. Birds chirped, and the gentle rush of the stream created a soothing rhythm. Maya felt a flicker of something she hadn't expected. Gratitude, yes, but also curiosity and admiration. There was an energy about Luke that drew her in, a combination of strength and calm, courage and kindness. After the brief rest, they continued their journey. The path began to slope upward, and Maya struggled slightly, the incline making her muscles ache. Luke noticed and slowed his pace. "Take your time," he said. "No need to rush. The forest isn't going anywhere." She nodded, grateful for his patience. As they climbed, Luke pointed out subtle signs in the environment, the tracks of animals in the mud, the way the trees leaned in certain directions, and even the wind patterns that indicated which areas were safer to cross. Maya listened intently, absorbing every word. She realized that his knowledge wasn't just about survival. It was about respect for the land, understanding its rhythms and secrets. As the day progressed, the forest grew denser. The sunlight struggled to penetrate the thick canopy, creating pockets of shadow that shifted as they moved. The quiet moments were punctuated by distant sounds, birds taking flight, leaves rustling, and the occasional snap of a branch. Maya couldn't help but remain alert, remembering the wolves and how quickly danger could appear. Luke seemed attuned to every sound, every movement. He would pause, listen, and adjust their path without a word. Maya found herself relying on his instincts, trusting that he could guide them safely. It was a strange feeling, to depend on someone she had just met, but the events of that morning had created a bond that was difficult to ignore. By mid-afternoon they reached a small ridge overlooking a wide valley. The view was breathtaking, rolling hills dotted with trees and bathed in sunlight, stretching as far as the eye could see. Maya paused, taking in the scene. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Luke nodded, standing beside her.
It is. And it can be dangerous too.
Beauty in the wilderness often hides threats. Maya looked at him, realizing that he was not just cautious. He was experienced, someone who had learned the hard lessons of nature. She admired that, and it made her feel even safer with him by her side. As they prepared to descend into the valley, a sudden sound froze them both. A low, guttural growl echoed through the trees below. Maya's heart leapt. Wolves. She didn't want to face another pack, not so soon. She stepped back instinctively, but Luke placed a firm hand on her shoulder. "Stay calm," he whispered. "We'll handle it. Just follow my lead." They moved cautiously toward the sound, keeping low and using the terrain for cover. Maya's pulse raced, but she followed Luke without hesitation. His confidence was contagious, and she knew that panicking would only make things worse. They reached a small clearing, and Maya's breath caught. 2 wolves stood there, larger than the ones from earlier, their fur bristling and eyes fixed on them. Luke positioned himself between Maya and the wolves, holding his stick firmly. He didn't speak, only watched, waiting for the right moment. The wolves circled slowly, testing him, but Luke remained calm. He made himself appear larger, his movements deliberate and strong. Maya watched, amazed at his composure. Finally, one wolf lunged, teeth bared, and Luke moved with precision, striking it with the stick. The wolf yelped and retreated, followed by the second. They disappeared into the forest, leaving Maya and Luke alone. Maya exhaled shakily, relief flooding her body. You saved us again," she whispered, her voice trembling. Luke nodded, but his expression was calm. "It's over. The forest is unpredictable, but it respects strength and confidence. You showed courage too." "Don't forget that." Maya looked at him, feeling a surge of admiration and gratitude. She realized that she was not just impressed by his skill, but by the calm way he faced danger, the way he protected her without hesitation. There was something deeply reassuring about him, a sense that no matter what came next, he would not let harm come to her. They continued through the valley, the shadows of the afternoon stretching longer. The events of the day had created a bond between them, a silent understanding that went beyond words. Maya felt a strange connection, a mixture of respect, gratitude, and something she couldn't quite name. She had faced danger alone before, but with Luke, it felt different. There was trust, safety, and an unspoken acknowledgement of what had just occurred. As they made camp for the evening, Maya couldn't help but replay the day in her mind. The fear of the wolves, the adrenaline, and the courage Luke had shown. She realized that this encounter had changed something within her. She had seen bravery, skill, and kindness in a way that left a lasting impression. That night, by the campfire, the forest seemed peaceful. The sounds of nocturnal creatures filled the air, but Maya felt a sense of security she hadn't experienced earlier. Luke prepared the fire with practiced ease, and she watched him, feeling a mix of admiration and curiosity. "You did well today," he said quietly, tossing another log onto the flames. Maya smiled faintly, warmth spreading through her chest. "I had help," she replied softly. Luke looked at her, eyes reflecting the firelight. "We both played our parts," he said. "It's not just me," Courage comes in many forms. Maya nodded, feeling the truth of his words. She realized that their partnership, even if temporary, had been crucial to their survival. And in that moment she felt something she hadn't expected, a sense of connection, a feeling that went beyond gratitude. As they settled in for the night, Maya wrapped herself in her blanket, glancing at Luke. He sat quietly, alert even in rest, and she felt a strange comfort in his presence. The forest was still, the danger of the day fading into memory, but the bond formed between them remained. Maya closed her eyes, letting the events of the day settle in her mind. She thought about the wolves, the fear, and the courage it had taken to face them. She thought about Luke, his skill, his calmness, and his willingness to risk himself to protect her. And she realized that this day, terrifying as it had been, had created something meaningful, something that could not be undone by time or distance. The next morning, the forest greeted them with the soft chirping of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves. Maya awoke to the smell of pine and smoke from the small campfire Luke had rekindled. She rubbed her eyes and stretched, grateful for a night of relatively peaceful sleep. The events of the previous day still weighed on her mind. The wolves, the fear, and the bravery Luke had shown, but there was also a strange warmth she couldn't ignore. He had saved her life not once but twice, and something about his presence made the wilderness feel less threatening. Luke was already awake, tending to the fire and preparing a small breakfast. His movements were calm and deliberate, the same careful precision he had shown when confronting the wolves. Maya watched him quietly, noting how natural he seemed in this environment. He belonged here in a way she had never seen in anyone else. "Morning," he said, glancing up with a small smile. "Sleep well?" Maya nodded. "I did. Thanks to you." Luke's smile widened slightly. "Good. We'll need energy for the day ahead. It's a long trail to the next settlement, and we'll face rough terrain along the way." She ate in silence, savoring the warmth of the fire and the simple food. There was something grounding about this moment, the quiet companionship and shared understanding between them. Maya realized that she felt safer with him, not just because of his skill, but because of the steady confidence he carried. After breakfast, they packed their belongings and resumed the journey. The forest path led them up a steep incline, the ground rocky and uneven. Maya moved carefully, placing her feet deliberately to avoid slipping. Luke walked slightly ahead, keeping an eye on her, ready to assist if needed. As they climbed, Luke pointed out landmarks and gave subtle instructions on where to step. "Watch the rocks here," he said. "They can be loose. Step on the roots if you need extra support." Maya followed his guidance, appreciating his attention to detail. She realized that he wasn't just leading her, he was teaching her, helping her navigate the wilderness in a way that built both skill and confidence. She found herself glancing at him more often, noticing the way his eyes scanned the surroundings, always alert, yet calm and reassuring. By midday, they reached a small stream running through the valley. The water was clear, reflecting the sunlight in sparkling patterns. They stopped to rest and refill their supplies. Luke knelt by the stream, cupping water in his hands, and Maya followed suit. "You're a fast learner," Luke said casually, glancing at her.
"You handled yourself well yesterday and today."
"Most people would be exhausted by now." Maya smiled faintly. "I've had to be careful all my life. The forest teaches you to be aware, to notice small details. But I wouldn't have survived yesterday without you." Luke nodded, acknowledging her words without ego. "We work together. That's what matters." As they sat by the stream, a light breeze rustling the leaves around them, Maya felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in a long time. She realized that the fear and adrenaline from the wolf encounter were beginning to fade, replaced by a growing respect and admiration for Luke. There was something reassuring about him, a sense that no matter what challenges lay ahead, he would face them with her, side by side. Their journey continued, the trail winding through dense forest, open meadows, and along steep ridges. Along the way they encountered small challenges, a fallen tree blocking the path, a slippery slope that required careful maneuvering, and the constant alertness required to avoid danger. Each challenge strengthened their trust in one another. Maya realized that relying on Luke didn't diminish her own strength, it complemented it. Together, they moved more efficiently and confidently than either could alone. As the day progressed, Maya noticed subtle changes in their dynamic. Luke would glance at her occasionally, making sure she was keeping up, offering small words of encouragement. She, in turn, found herself observing him, noticing the quiet determination in his eyes, the way he moved with purpose yet remained attuned to the world around him. There was a rhythm to their partnership, unspoken but clear, born out of shared experiences and mutual respect. By late afternoon, they reached a ridge overlooking a wide valley. The view was breathtaking, rolling hills stretching into the distance dotted with trees and bathed in the golden light of the setting sun. Maya paused, taking in the sight. "It's beautiful," she murmured, feeling a sense of awe. Luke stood beside her, his expression softening as he looked at the landscape. "It is," he agreed. "But the wilderness is full of challenges too. You have to respect it." Maya nodded, understanding the deeper meaning in his words. Life, like the forest, could be unpredictable and dangerous, but it was also filled with moments of beauty and wonder. She felt a growing sense of gratitude, not just for his guidance and protection, but for the way he helped her see the world differently. As the sun dipped lower, they began to descend into the valley. The terrain was tricky, with loose rocks and hidden roots, but Luke moved with careful precision, leading the way and guiding Maya safely. Occasionally, he would extend a hand to help her over obstacles, and each time she felt a spark of connection, a recognition that their bond was deepening beyond mere survival. Night fell as they reached a small clearing suitable for camping. Luke quickly gathered firewood and started a fire, the warm glow illuminating the surrounding trees. Maya helped, arranging stones around the fire and unpacking their supplies. They worked in comfortable silence, each aware of the other's presence and movements. Once the fire was ready, they sat together, the warmth and light creating a cocoon of safety. Maya gazed at Luke, noticing the quiet strength in his posture and the calm assurance in his eyes. She felt a surge of emotion, a mixture of gratitude, admiration, and something she hadn't expected, a sense of trust and connection that went deeper than mere survival. "You've been amazing today," she said softly, unable to keep the words inside any longer. I don't know what I would have done without you."
Luke looked at her, his eyes reflecting the firelight.
"You would have done fine," he replied. "You're strong and capable. But we make a good team, don't we?" Maya smiled, a warmth spreading through her chest. "Yes, we do." The night deepened, and the forest around them became quiet, the occasional rustle of leaves or distant call of an owl the only sounds. Maya found herself opening up to Luke in a way she hadn't expected. She spoke of her life, her family, and the challenges she had faced as an Apache woman living close to the wilderness. Luke listened intently, offering small words of understanding and encouragement. When it was his turn, Luke shared stories of his life as a cowboy, long days on horseback, the solitude of the plains, and the lessons he had learned from nature. Maya listened, fascinated by his experiences and the quiet wisdom he carried. She realized that, despite their different backgrounds, they shared a common understanding of survival, respect for the land, and resilience in the face of adversity. As the fire burned low, Maya felt a sense of closeness she hadn't anticipated. The events of the day, the dangers they had faced, and the time spent together had created a bond that went beyond words. She realized that her admiration for Luke had grown into something deeper, something that combined respect, trust, and an emerging sense of affection. Finally, as the fire dimmed and the night grew colder, Maya looked at Luke and, with a mixture of playfulness and sincerity, said, "Now, you are mine." Luke raised an eyebrow, a small smile playing at his lips. "Mine?" he repeated, amused but intrigued. Maya nodded, her eyes meeting his. "Yes, after everything today, I trust you, and I know you'll protect me. You've earned it." Luke's expression softened, and he reached out to offer a reassuring touch on her shoulder. "I'll do my best," he said quietly. "But trust is earned every day. Let's see what tomorrow brings." Maya smiled, feeling a sense of warmth and safety she had never experienced before. The words she had spoken were not just about possession, they were a declaration of trust, connection, and the bond formed through shared experiences and mutual reliance. As they settled in for the night, Maya reflected on the events of the day, the challenges, the triumphs, and the growing connection between them. She knew that their journey was far from over, and that the wilderness would continue to test them. But she also knew that together, they could face whatever came next. The forest, once a place of fear and uncertainty, had become a backdrop for trust, courage, and the beginning of a profound connection. Maya felt a quiet excitement for the days ahead, knowing that this journey had changed her life in ways she could not yet fully understand. And as she drifted into sleep, she felt a sense of anticipation, knowing that the bond forged in the wilderness would guide them through whatever challenges awaited. The morning sun spilled over the horizon, painting the forest in soft shades of gold and green. Maya stirred from her sleep, the warmth of the fire's embers still lingering around her. The night had been peaceful, a rare gift in the wilderness, and she felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in days. Luke was already awake, tending to the fire and preparing a small breakfast, his movements steady and purposeful as always. Maya watched him quietly, noting the quiet strength he carried, the patience and calm that seemed to define every step he took. After a simple meal, they packed their belongings, checking the trail ahead. The journey to Maya's village was still several hours away, and the terrain would test them one last time. Steep slopes, dense undergrowth, and narrow paths wound through the hills and valleys, each step requiring care and attention. Yet, despite the challenges, Maya felt a renewed sense of confidence. She knew that with Luke by her side, she could navigate anything the wilderness threw at them. As they moved along the trail, Luke occasionally glanced back at her, ensuring she was keeping pace. The sun climbed higher, casting dappled light through the trees. Maya noticed small details, the way the wind rustled the leaves, the tracks of deer and small animals, the scent of pine and damp earth. Luke pointed out subtle signs in the environment, teaching her lessons in observation and awareness. Maya listened closely, realizing that every tip he shared was a reminder of his knowledge, experience, and deep respect for the land. Hours passed, and the path began to level out, opening into rolling hills that signaled the outskirts of civilization. Maya's heart lifted. The danger of the wilderness had receded, but the memory of the wolves, the steep climbs, and the tense moments lingered. She felt a mix of relief, accomplishment, and gratitude. Luke had been more than a guide. He had been a protector, a teacher, and in some ways a companion who made her feel safe and seen. Finally, as the afternoon sun hung high in the sky, they saw the first signs of Maya's village. Smoke rising from chimneys, the soft sound of voices in the distance, and the well-trodden paths winding between small wooden homes. Maya's chest swelled with relief and pride. She had made it safely, not alone, but with someone whose courage and guidance had ensured her survival. As they approached the village, Maya felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She knew her people were wary of outsiders, and she wondered how they would react to a cowboy walking beside her. Luke, sensing her hesitation, gave her a reassuring nod. "You're safe now," he said quietly. "We'll handle this together." Maya led the way, walking with confidence, but alert to the reactions of the villagers. When they reached the center of the village, a few children paused in their play, curious eyes following the strangers. Adults looked up from their daily tasks, expressions of surprise and mild caution on their faces. Maya took a deep breath, stepping forward with Luke at her side. "This is Luke," she said, her voice steady but proud. "He helped me through the forest and protected me from danger. I trust him, and you should too." There was a moment of silence as the villagers assessed the situation. Luke nodded respectfully to the elders, his posture calm and confident, showing neither arrogance nor fear. Slowly, the tension began to ease. The villagers could see the sincerity in Maya's words and the quiet strength in Luke's presence. One of the elders, an older man with a lined face and sharp eyes, stepped forward. "If she trusts you, then we will not question it," he said. The forest is dangerous, and it seems you have proven yourself. Luke inclined his head respectfully. Thank you, he replied simply. I only did what was necessary to keep her safe. The village had accepted him, and with that, the immediate danger of judgment or suspicion had passed. She realized that this journey had changed more than just her perspective. It had shaped her understanding of trust, courage, and partnership. Over the next few hours, Maya and Luke walked through the village, greeting neighbors and sharing brief stories of their journey. Luke listened attentively, always respectful, never imposing, and Maya noticed that people were slowly warming to him. Administration were curious, asking questions, and adults were impressed by his knowledge of the wilderness and his calm, reliable demeanor. As the sun began to set, painting the village in hues of orange and pink, Maya and Luke found a quiet spot overlooking the fields. They sat together, watching the golden light fall across the landscape. Maya felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for the safety and guidance Luke had provided, but for the bond that had grown between them. You know, Maya said softly, I never expected to find someone like you out there. Someone who could face danger without hesitation and still remain kind and patient. Luke glanced at her, a small smile tugging at the corner of his lips. It's not about being fearless, he said. It's about knowing how to act when fear comes. And you? You acted bravely too. You faced danger, stayed calm, and trusted. That's rare. Maya felt warmth spreading through her chest. There was a connection here that went beyond gratitude or admiration. It was a deep, unspoken understanding, built through shared experiences and challenges. She realized that she could trust him completely, and more than that, she wanted to. As the evening grew cooler, Luke stood and offered his hand. Come on, he said. Let's walk a bit. The village is beautiful at sunset. Maya took his hand, a sense of comfort and reassurance in the simple gesture. They walked together through the village, passing fields, small homes, and the distant laughter of children. The warmth of their connection grew with each step, a bond forged through danger, trust, and shared experience. Later they reached a quiet clearing on the outskirts of the village. Maya turned to him, her eyes reflecting the last rays of sunlight. I don't know how to thank you enough, she said softly. Luke shook his head gently. You don't need to, he replied. We've both learned something from this journey. You've shown me courage, and I've been able to help you. That's enough for me. Maya smiled, feeling a profound sense of peace. The fear, the uncertainty, and the danger of the past days had given way to safety, trust, and something deeper. An emotional connection that she had not expected to find. That night, as the village settled into quiet, Maya and Luke camped near the edge of the forest one last time. The fire burned warmly between them, casting flickering shadows across their faces. They spoke quietly of their hopes and experiences, of the lessons they had learned in the wilderness, and of the moments that had shaped their journey together. Maya felt a quiet confidence in their partnership. She realized that the bond formed through danger and survival had become something permanent, something that could extend beyond the forest and into everyday life. Luke had earned her trust, respect, and admiration not through words alone, but through actions, courage, and unwavering presence. Finally, as the fire died down, Maya turned to Luke, a playful yet sincere smile on her face. Now, you are mine, she said softly, repeating the words from days before, but this time with the full weight of trust and affection. Luke's eyes softened, a warm smile spreading across his face. Then I will protect that trust, he replied quietly. Always. The words were more than playful. They were a declaration of partnership, respect, and a bond that had been forged in the wilderness and tested through danger. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. The next morning, they walked into the village together. Maya introduced Luke to her family, the villagers, and friends. Everyone saw the bond between them, the respect and trust that had grown through shared experiences. Luke was welcomed, not as an outsider, but as someone who had proven his loyalty, courage, and kindness. Over the following weeks, Luke spent more time in the village, learning about the customs, the land, and the people. Maya guided him, sharing her knowledge while he continued to demonstrate his skill, patience, and respect. Together, they became a symbol of courage, partnership, and trust, showing that even in the face of danger, connection and understanding could flourish. Maya often reflected on the journey, the fear, the tension, the wolves, and the moments of quiet courage. She realized that those experiences had created something lasting, a bond that went beyond gratitude or survival. Luke had become her partner, her companion, and someone whose presence she could rely on completely. The wilderness, once a place of fear and uncertainty, had become the backdrop for trust, bravery, and the beginning of a life-changing connection. Maya understood that the forest had tested her, but it had also revealed the value of courage, trust, and partnership. As the days passed, the bond between Maya and Luke only grew stronger. They faced challenges together, supported each other, and discovered the depth of their connection. The journey through the wilderness had been dangerous, but it had also been transformative, shaping not only their relationship but also their understanding of courage, loyalty, and trust. And so, standing together on the edge of the forest, looking out over the land they had crossed, Maya felt a sense of peace, gratitude, and anticipation. The adventure had ended, but the bond it had created would endure. She knew that with Luke by her side they could face any challenge, navigate any path, and continue building a life founded on trust, courage, and shared experience.